Boom, focus. Hey, internets. Wanted to bring this up, so I'm going to title this 2019 as I haven't touched on it in a while. Although I've been getting a lot of responses from older videos where I've posted about this subject. So, should I buy my own embroidery machine or silk screening setup and for my own brand? And really what I'd want to touch on as well is the subject of, should I produce for other people as I'm developing my own brand, if I purchase all of the equipment or just the embroidery machine or just the screen printing, should I print for other people or do work for other people while I'm doing my own brand? So I've dropped a few videos on this, and my answer is still no. I don't think you should, generally speaking. Okay, I think my answer before was a certain type of person would be able to do this, and they should, but you should buy a minimal setup that's just for your brand. Okay, so the reason you would do this is the same reason you would probably buy a DTG machine, is you can control the production of the product that you make. So if you do that, you can design the product, put it out on an e-commerce site, see what bites and see what sells, and then produce after once you have the money, right? So once people actually purchase, then you can then produce and send. And so why do we want to do that? It takes away the risk. It takes away the risk of you pre-producing, which is what we do at bigger brands, right? We pre-produce and we say, hey, this is what's offered. And then you run the risk of having all of that in inventory. So once the t-shirt is printed, once the hat is embroidered, you can't turn that back into money. You know, it's an asset that needs to move, and if it doesn't move, you know, you're gonna sell it to Ross, or you're gonna, you know, bigger companies have a couple different ways of liquidating, but they have the same problem as you guys, which are mostly startups for my YouTube channel. So in 2019, I still have the same advice, and you should be very focused. If you're good at screen printing, or you know you're good at learning, you will be good at learning the craft. You should do it for yourself. If you do it for service as a vendor, like you're like, oh, I'm gonna print for a couple other people. I have a couple of my friends are already interested. I can do the PE uniforms for the local school and all of that. Just realize that's a whole nother business, okay? And I got a long response from Ruler of All, and let me read this real quick, just because I want to bring the opposition or the other way of thinking into this conversation before I give you my points. And so I said the same thing probably in this video, and this person said, I wholeheartedly disagree with you. While pushing out your brand and throwing the public's order in the lineup is what helps you stay afloat. Even if you do sell great with your own brand, it's the public's money you can use for rent and for products, while your brand money keeps going back into it. It's basically having a job while pushing your brand out, but instead of having a normal 9-to-5 with no flexibility, why not do for others as you already do for your own brand? That's how you become full-time. Money, and then I'm just gonna paraphrase, but money on both ends while having the freedom to be your own boss. Okay, so let me just respond to that, because that's the way of thinking that would even get you to click on this video. First, let me qualify. I owned a high-volume screen printing shop in the middle of designing for like a ton of multi-million-dollar companies. Before the last two brands where I was a director, I owned a screen printing shop in Vista. If you go back in the feed, you can see I dropped videos about Union Print Co. And my former business partner, we talk all the time. He's still running that business. One of our biggest clients of that operation is Blizzard, which is a huge, it's a $6 billion gaming company in Irvine, California. So I was up to my neck in the vendor pool. So embroidery, silk screening, foil, finishing, we did everything. So I went from being on the side where I talked to vendors to becoming a vendor for over 3 years. And so I know it very well. What happens is, so I have the resources with me, but the hat that I'm wearing during the day when I was working, when I co-own that operation, is service. So I'm thinking, I'm always putting my clients first. Here's what I have to say. If you become successful at having clientele for screen printing or embroidery, you're not going to do a full, more like 10 hours a day of that type of work and then go, oh, so let me have dinner and then start thinking about stuff for my brand. It's very difficult to then focus on that brand. That your brand is, because you're gonna have another order and another. It's basically non-stop, and it never goes smooth. The minority of clients or runs or gigs will go smooth. The rest of them will all have a problem. They will all have a problem. Think about you when you buy something from Amazon, or anywhere, wherever you go shopping. But Amazon I use as a reference because they set the bar. Jeff Bezos really set the bar super high. If you have Prime, it's 2-day shipping. If you have a dispute, Amazon has insurance to cover you, the purchaser. So we've made it so everything is on the purchaser side. If you don't get an item that you purchased from someone and they don't send it out for a week, you're like, where the hell is my product? Like, as a consumer, we demand a lot, okay? So just think about that. If you order, 12 shirts from a screen printer, and it's your own money that you use from working full time, you're gonna freak out about a lot of details. Whereas if I'm working with a company that orders 800 units of the same design, that product manager knows the way in which certain things are running, right? So if I back up to you offering that service to the public, you're gonna realize how sensitive other people are for their own orders and the minute details where you might let it slide if you're providing the service and working on 10 different clients at once, versus how much they could zoom in and say, hey, this color, can we make it a little lighter or darker, and it's already printed. Just a million things. Timeline, of course, I just mentioned. In any case, here's what I want to say. That's its own business. Running a service business is its own business. So that's why I say it takes a certain kind of person to be able to have their own production and offer it to the public. So if you're doing it for your own clothing line, it's a great idea. If you're doing it for yours and then you're like, oh, I'm going to print a couple people, if you have focus and say I'm only going to do a certain amount of jobs, then that's fine. But that starts cracking into your schedule in a way where it's like, do you have a job and do this and then really not have a life? Which on some Gary Vaynerchuk, eat dirt for like several years and years before you start seeing the ROI. I get it. I understand that school of thought. I'm a fan. So depends on where you're at and what your goals are. But to think it's gonna be like a Visa commercial where it's all smooth is not I don't work in production anymore, and that's definitely for a reason. That was 2 jobs ago. So I've been a director at 2 places since that, I believe. But in any case, there are examples. I want to bring up examples of people that do use manufacturing with their brands. First case study, Hundreds. So Hundreds does screen printing for a lot of people, but that's under a different company, and they co-own that. So someone owns that operation. You ain't never watched Ben and Bobby pulling screens, and because they need to focus on running the clothing brand, right? So, but they're smart because obviously they run all of their printables and what they do through their production company, right, for their silk screening, right? And that's genius because they're gonna get the best pricing because it's their company. But they partner with someone who's doing that. That great idea if you can do it. And then there's a lot of brands that I talk to, work with, consult with, and they will put a operation together in their garage, but only for their brand. That's great too. And then there's Hotbox Print Studio in Chico, California. Shout out to them. And they're offering it to the public, and then he's working on his own brand. But balancing, you know, that now we come back to trying to be able to balance. So I've heard of one company that helped launch a couple brands that started as screen printing, but their family kept that as the main operation, and then they partnered with other people. Like they would partner with someone like me and say, hey, this is the brand and we'll work together, and obviously we have this as a resource. But the main point that I want to show is to show success over time. And I'm talking about multi-million-dollar brands. So if you want it to pay for your mortgage and be like your main job, notice that it's a separate operation than the vendoring or the making of or the production operation of it. Okay, so that's the only thing I want to bring up because I've lived it, I've done it, I've seen people start the operation and say, wow, I started this because I want to do my own brand, and I can't breathe. I mean, it's good we're getting work in, but it's not going to be like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur and I can fly to the Virgin Islands whenever I want. You will be working 10 to 12 hours a day if you pile on the orders. And then number one. Number two, there's going to be a lot of problems. So be a person that can handle people complaining and then having an answer or a solution, or knowing that that's going to be a problem and taking care of it beforehand to know that that's going to happen. If you're doing it for your brand, just be focused on what the outcome is. And so I would say, yes, do it if you're going to do a small operation that's kind of for you. If you're going the other route, know that you're going to divide your brain into two separate ways of thinking, okay? And I've done it, and I've worked with other people that are doing it or not doing it and failed at doing it, okay? So just my thoughts on having your own in-house production. Me, I would rather either partner or just hire someone else to do the screen printing, do the embroidery, obviously try to get the best pricing and quoting. I've done tons of videos on that. Then owning the equipment and putting it into my garage or my room or something like that. Hope that helps. Any other things you want to add, please drop it all down below. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.